Michael Every of Rabobank says hush money trial could not only boost Trump's odds of winning, but also taking the House and the Senate. Pure Shakespeare. Stocks were down again as U.S. yields and the dollar were up again, not helping matters. The Fed's beige book said mild stagflation. Retail spending was flat to up slightly, but lower discretionary spending and heightened consumer price sensitivity. Auto sales flat, with some incentives to spur sales. Travel and tourism stronger, but with mixed outlooks. Transportation mixed. Manufacturing flat to up. Housing up modestly. Commercial real estate softer. Energy stable. Agriculture mixed. The overall outlook was more pessimistic amid rising uncertainty and greater downside risks. Employment rose at a slight pace, with wage growth mostly moderate, and several districts reporting its pre-pandemic historic averages or normalizing towards it. Prices increased at a modest pace as consumers pushed back, leading to smaller profit margins, and retail discounts were evident despite increases in input costs, particularly insurance, though with some falls in construction and raw materials costs, and price growth was expected to continue at a modest pace. Elsewhere, things were more Shakespearean. Cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war, Mark Antony in Julius Caesar said. The Financial Times made headlines is that NATO has just 5% of air defense needed to protect the eastern flank. No, NATO does not have an eastern flank, but an eastern front. It faces east, so its vulnerable flank are to the north and south. Regardless, it urgently needs to spend 20 times more on air defense alone. Meanwhile, Poland is reinforcing its border with Belarus and Russia, as the former withdrew from the conventional armed forces in Europe Treaty, and the Baltics and Scandinavia planned a drone wall, quote unquote. Many EU countries will also now allow Ukraine to use their donated weapons to attack into Russia. Military, that's the best strategy geopolitically. It means the West escalating to de-escalate, which Russia will only mirror. The UK Telegraph is running a series of articles starting today on the topic, what if Putin wins? The first argues a Russian victory would unleash a cascade of events triggering irreversible changes, pushing the world into the brink of chaos. Quote, the first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers, end quote. This is said by Dick the Butcher in Henry VI, Part 2. The first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers. We can also expect imminent market headlines from the Trump trial in New York, where the jury is, it did come in, he was found guilty. In every trial, there is always two opinions, the prosecution and the defense. And in this trial, anti-Trump, pre-Trump, anti-Trump, but concerned about the rule of law. Alan Dershowitz, a Democrat, has been withering in his criticism of how this trial has been prosecuted. Legal expert Jonathan Turley notes that it has seemed otherworldly, a vaguely familiar proceeding where common elements of a trial seem to have been flipped, listing the numerous ways normal practice has not been followed, which those pro-Trump naturally allege have occurred for nefarious political purposes. And given how the judge, the marchand of vengeance, strictly instructed the jury, experts think the most likely outcome are a hung jury or conviction. Well, the conviction did come out yesterday. If it's the former, Trump will gain huge publicity and cry he was wronged by Democrat lawfare. And if he's convicted, that is arguably even more the case, even if the latter will rapid appeal, potentially all the way up to the Supreme Court. Of course they'll appeal, which many observers think will then see the verdict overturned, of course, to presume, as White House strategists must do, that being able to call Trump a convicted felon on TV will necessarily dent his electoral prospects rather than boosting them, may be to totally misread the current situation, as in 2016. This matters for markets more than Some reading the very beige book realize not only could this trial potentially increase the likelihood of Trump winning in 2024, which would already shift the US, the world, and world markets, but it might boost his odds of taking the Senate and the House too, ensuring that he would shift them all if he wants to. It might also convince him that he needs to, as the Wall Street Journal says, Elon Musk might take an advisory role in the White House were Trump to win. Then what might that mean for U.S. policy? Orange Cybertruck, Cyber Trump coin, Camp Trump on Mars. More broadly, it's a further dent in the reputation of U.S. law, just as contrived media controversy rages over a Supreme Court judge for flying a flag, and again, politicizing the highest echelons of the U.S. justice system. Following previous controversial court cases involving Trump there, it does not do New York any favors as an investment destination unless one's business is in the anti-Trump camp, yet that points to a polarization of the U.S. mirroring past ones in emerging markets. Indeed, Dershowitz and Turley fear precisely the political rule by law, not of law, if precedent is set. Could future presidents find partisan judges and juries to rustle up court cases to take out potential opposition legally, as happened elsewhere? That still seems unlikely given the checks and balances in the U.S. system, but for some, this is all a worrying step in that direction. U.S. businesses and market players, even those anti-Trump, should be aware that those kinds of legal environments are partly why so much foreign capital ends up in the U.S. in the first place. Moreover, when The Economist is worrying about the collapse of the global liberal institutions and the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice have mired themselves in controversy, splitting the West internally and versus the global South in a new Cold War, as Mexico joins South Africa's case versus Israel at the International Court of Justice, the Australian says the ICC issuing warrants for the arrest of Netanyahu and his defense minister is grandstanding by the toothless, bloated court. The last thing the West needs is for its rule of law to be brought into ill repute. Quote, let's kill all the lawyers is how you, unquote, it's how you destabilize things in Shakespeare's eyes, but so is letting all the lawyers kill us. On that note, many other Henry VI Part 2 quotes spring to mind and should spring to yours. Act 1, Scene 2, my troublous dreams this night doth make me sad, said the Duke of Gloucester. And King Henry VI, Act 2, Scene 1 again, how irksome is this music to my heart, when such strings jar, what hope of harmony? And Warwick, Act 3, Scene 2, the commons, like an angry hive of bees, that want their leader scatter up and down, and care not who they sting in his revenge. And this is on Zero Hedge by Michael Every of Rabobank. We know that also the people in tremendous hordes have gone onto the Trump campaign to donate, and the site has crashed because of all those people going to donate. So this is the big news today. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.